Jon Jones, who is the heavyweight champ at the moment, unfortunately got injured in his last camp sparring his wife, and therefore the UFC put in place an interim title, which was won by Tom Aspinall. It seems the two fighters can't be separated because they have been having it out on Twitter or X, however you want to call it, and I'm here to analyze everything for you guys. So let's get straight into the video. So Jon Jones says, only 4 recognizable opponents and already the King of England. Must be nice. There will be legendary tales told about you and your infamous call-outs. I don't think Jon Jones realizes here that they are call-outs because he's the one not taking the fight, right? If he was to take the fight, these wouldn't just be call-outs. So he is actually the cause of this issue that he's bringing up. It's a bit weird. It's quite hypocritical here. You are the problem, and you are identifying the problem. You have the solution. And if Jon Jones behaved as a GOAT should behave and just took this fight, this problem wouldn't be here in the first place, right? For me, Tom Aspinall is the most exciting fight that Jon Jones can take. And I do believe that a lot of the UK fans, of course, believe that, and a lot of the US fans also believe that as well. So I don't really understand why he's avoiding this fight so much. So then someone smart pointed out, he's done all he can do, you can't blame him for being frustrated. And Jon Jones replies with, I mean, it doesn't really work like that. I was champion when I was 23 years old. You can't show up at age 30 pretending like you've been chasing me your whole life. I have no clue who 90% of his resume is. Meanwhile, I've been highlighting UFC events my entire career. And my response to this is that I don't really think that Jon Jones understands how interim titles work. So I'm going to give him an explanation. So John, if you're watching, which you're definitely not, but let's just pretend he might be. John, if you're watching, let me explain how an interim title works, right? Let me just break it down for you, John, here. So if you win the interim title, you usually get a shot at the so-called real title. You call it the real title, so I go by that. The real title, when the title holder who is injured or away returns. So that's how an interim title works. So you know, I just thought I'd give you an explanation. And, you know, for a man who has been in the sport his entire life, you know, since the age of 23, I can understand how that can be confusing. So don't worry, I've got you, bro. And this is just showing again that Jon Jones clearly just wants to have his fight against Stipe rather than Aspinall, which to me makes no fucking sense whatsoever. Let's hope that the UFC doesn't give Jon Jones special treatment. And the reason I say this is not just because of this fight that I want to happen, but because of the whole UFC organization and the fact that if someone gets denied a title shot for political reasons, other fighters will be able to reference it in order to fight specific fighters that they want. Now, this could turn the whole sport into boxing, essentially, where fights don't get put on, people don't get title shots who deserve it, fights get put on too late, and I just really don't want the UFC to turn into this, because the UFC is usually very good at getting fighters who deserve title shots. And I know Tony Ferguson fans are crying right now. I feel the same. I'm crying on the inside. I just really don't want the UFC to turn into boxing, where fighters can reference this scenario in question and say, well, you gave Jon Jones special treatment. He didn't have to fight Tom Aspinall, who was the interim title holder. So why do I have to fight the interim title holder? Or why do I have to fight that guy? He's not popular. So for me, that's the danger with this situation. I hope you understand the bigger picture here. And another point actually that I saw on True Geordie's video on this scenario as well, which I thought was an excellent point, so I'm giving him full credit for this part, by the way, but he's taking the piss out of opponents that Tom Aspinall has fought, and obviously he can't do much about who he's fought who was in front of him and done very well. But my second point to this is when we actually look at Jon Jones's CV for who he fought before his title shot, it's actually not that impressive or electrifying. I'll put it up on the screen for you now. And for me, Tom Aspinall's win against Pavlovich is 10 times more impressive than any fight or any win that Jon Jones got before he got his title shot. It's just really, really ironic here that he's going at Tom Aspinall here, and we look at his CV, and there's actually not much to show in terms of good fighters that he fought against before he was a champion. Jon Jones is my GOAT, by the way, so this is quite a tricky one, but British bias anyway. Jon Jones then went off again and said, "It's a wild world we live in. People can be so quick to try and replace you, throw you away, discredit your work." That's John, that's how sport works, buddy. You're the champion one day, you retire. A lot of people forget about you because there's other up-and-coming fighters that are exciting. It's just a cycle, mate. It's an endless loop. I hate to break the news to you, John, but it's an endless loop. New young fighters come in, they beat the old champions retire, the new champions are the ones everyone's talking about. You might get mentioned here and there on a Joe Rogan podcast. And then the same happens again. It's a cycle. It's just the way sport works. And it is unfortunate because there's a lot of people that get forgotten. There's a lot of athletes that get forgotten. That's the best thing about them stats, or just being able to see the fruits of your labor. Be an absolute savage at what you do. At what the fuck is he on about? I can't even lie. I don't even know what he's on about here. That's the best thing about them stats, or just being able to see the fruits of your labor, right? I think he's talking about reflecting on his career. As the defending champion, personally, I don't think you should be reflecting on much, because you should be busy defending your title, right? That's just my opinion. You can't just say, "I'm not fighting him because look at all of the stuff I've done in the past." Like, it doesn't give you license to just avoid fights because you've had a history of great fights, right? It just makes no sense to me. John, if you're watching again, which you're not, but anyway, if you're watching again, you'll have plenty of time to look over your career when you've retired. Stop using it to avoid fights and fight Tom Aspinall. Then look back. If you get the victory against Tom, great. Look back at it, be happy, have a smile on your face, have a whiskey and a smile on your face. Just do what you want, but you can't use your resume to avoid fights. That's not how this works. And I hope this doesn't happen, because it will be stupid. And the other points he makes are pretty stupid, to be honest. I love how a fighter can do an interview about me every week, make silly memes on the internet, and then when I respond, play victim. Right, he's not. I'm going to break this down really quickly because there's a lot of YouTubers that would spend a lot of time on this bit. Tom Aspinall thinks he can beat you, right? And he wants to fight you. That's all that's happening. That's it. It's like any other call out. If I think I can beat that person, I'll call them out. There's no deeper meaning here. Tom Aspinall just wants a fight. I'll break down the next bit now. And finally, this is the last tweet I'm going to go over because I think Jon Jones was actually embarrassing himself here. Tom, you talking about someone's ego running wild is one of the most hypocritical things ever. You literally haven't kept my balls out of your mouth since you won that imaginary championship. It's not imaginary, it's an interim title. The UFC have been doing it for years. You were injured because you sparred your girlfriend too hard. And Tom won an interim title, therefore he should be fighting you. There you go. That's that bit broken down. The next part. Both you and Serge have 0 championships between your name. Cyril Gane had no championships to his name, and you actually fought him for the title. So that completely discredits that sentence you just said there. Again, it's funny that you actually walk around feeling like the world champion, especially when the actual champion is undefeated and had a flawless last performance. Right, you fought someone who can't fucking wrestle in Cyril Gane and you wrestled him and won. Great. But your heavyweight resume is fucking nothing compared to Tom Aspinall's, right? If we were looking at the bulk of his career, of course he's had a better career than Tom Aspinall. But what I'm saying is, as a heavyweight, he's done fuck all. He's actually done nothing, right? And what pisses me off more is that he could have fought Francis Ngannou, but it took him 3 years to discover what bulking is. I know bulking is a very complicated thing. Eat more calories than you burn. Super complicated. But he avoided that fight, then fought a guy with no championships either, which again makes his point irrelevant, who can't wrestle, who is a one-trick pony in my opinion. Sorry, Cyril Gane, if you see this, which you won't, sorry. Beat him and then got injured for the Stipe fight and now won't fight the guy that deserves the title. So I just think these tweets are bullshit. British bias, of course. Also, you guys do say I look like Tom Aspinall, so I've got to defend the guy. Come on now. I want you guys to write your opinions. And I don't care if you don't agree with me, right? If you don't agree with me, write it down and we can have a discussion. I think it'll be great. If you agree with me, fantastic. If you have some opposing opinions, write it down. Smash the like button. The dislike button is broken on YouTube at the moment, so you can't press that, unfortunately. But yeah, I will see you in the next video.